This here is my 2018 Tundra. I bought it brand new off the lot back in 2018. It was a crew cab 4-wheel drive XP package in color Inferno. But it is the flex fuel engine. It's the 5.7, but it's the flex fuel, and means it can run corn gas if needed. And the only downside about that is every 5,000 miles you require to change the oil instead of every 10,000 miles. Supposedly it's something to do with they're not sure about the seals and the pistons and the rings and things, how to hold up for 10,000 miles, but whatever, gives me something to do. It's OW20 oil, used fully synthetic. It takes 8.5 quarts, so we got about 10 quarts. We have our oil pans, our tools, our filter, our rags, and typical Toyota, we have to have a special little wrench just for Toyota. Can't use a standard one. Funnel, pretty basic stuff. First thing you want to do is drink a beer and then come in here and pop the hood. Pretty standard place to pop it, just like everybody else. There we go, 5.7 liters of pure power. All right, I'm gonna crawl in there and start pulling this thing and pull the filter out and drain it and all that good stuff, and we'll follow up with it. Forgot to tell you, the first thing you do besides drinking a beer is crank the engine, let it run for a little while to get it warmed up and nice, and all the particles settle down to the bottom a little bit. Then you gotta take this thing off. This is like the splash guard. You can call it a skid plate, but it's really not one. It's more or less like a splash guard because it's super thin. See, wouldn't take much to tear that up. But there's, one, two, and then you have to take these off as well. And then there's three more back here you gotta take off. You'll need an extension or a deep well socket. This comes off on the back first and then do the front, because then it slides and then comes off. It's a pain in the ass, it's heavy underneath it. But take that off, and the filter is right under there somewhere. It's like right under there. So we'll take this off and we'll come back. I pulled this off, like I said, it was 5 bolts, and well, technically 8 because you had the 3 on that was on the bumper, but 5 main bolts holding that on, and then 3 on the bumper. But underneath here we have, where are you? The filter. You got to pull this piece out here, and then the new filter comes with like a little plastic thing you can plug in there, and that's how you drain the oil out of the filter itself, because it's sitting straight up in a housing. And if you just take that housing off, then it's going to run oil everywhere. It's just not cool. So pull the metal plug out first. Just stick your socket in there with no actual socket size on it. Just stick the end of it. Hang on. Like the end of your socket. Put your extension on it. Just stick it in there and twist it off. You know, lefty-loosey kind of thing. And then the new filter comes with a plastic plug like that. So when you take the metal plug out, you literally just take this and cram it in there. See, it's got them notches on it, so it locks in place. And when it does, oil's gonna run out. So go ahead and have something under it to catch it. You can take a hose and stick it up there and put it in the bucket. If you have one, I'll see if I got one that fits it, but otherwise just stick it up there and watch out, because it's gonna run out. I found my lawnmower hose, and it works out pretty good. But that's what I was talking about. As soon as you plug it in there, it's gonna start draining into your pan. But that plastic piece just clips right in there at the bottom. As you can see, my hose doesn't quite fit perfect, but just make sure it all runs into your drain pan. As you can see, I got a second stream coming down here, but that's what that's for. It catches all of it. Your plug will have oil on it, so get some paper towels ready. That's why I always keep my white balls. They're perfect for this kind of job. And since this truck takes 8.5 quarts of oil, you need a big pan. I happen to have 2, I think these are 7-quart pans or 6.5 quart pans or something like that. I use them for my lawnmower, but when I drain or pull the plug for the actual oil pan, one of these will fill up really quickly. So when it gets almost, too full to actually handle it, you stick this one underneath and take your other hand and drag the full one out of the way, so that way it can finish draining into that. Now it looks like my oil filter is almost empty, so I'm gonna let it drain for another minute or 2 and take it off. Then we can start draining the real oil. All right, so I finally got the oil filter housing off, and as you can see, it's right there. It's nothing simple or nothing special about it, just a plastic housing. They make a metal one of these, but apparently the little grate on the inside is too short on the metal version. So if you do replace it, you need to take this one out of your plastic one and put it into your metal one. Just kind of FYI thing. That's the old filter. It's dirty, it's canning in, that's why it's nice and dark. But something to remember, there was the ring down there, that gasket. It was in this channel there. Make sure that comes off. There's one on the bottom as well for that little silver plug. And your new filter will come with a little one for the plug and a big one for the housing. But when you put it up there, you need to put it back in that notch like it was, and then take some oil and grease it up real good. You don't want to put a dry ring in there, because when you twist it down, when you twist the housing back up there to snug it, and that ring's dry, it'll pinch it, pull it, all that good stuff. So make sure your old one comes off, make sure your new one gets up there, and make sure you grease your ring. I'm going to put the new filter in here, put my ring up there, and I'm going to put the housing back up there. So see, that's what I was talking about when I pulled the plug. It obviously comes running out real fast initially, because there's a lot in there. The first pan fills up kind of quickly, and you got to quickly put the second pan in there and just let it drain. I have cracked the lid or the cap for the oil fill, so that way it gets some air to it and let's actually push it through. There is our filter housing. That silver plug is what I was talking about. That small O-ring goes in there around like the bolt part of it, if you want to call it that, but there's a notch in there. Make sure you grease that one as well. Put it back in there, pull the plug, let it drain, drink your beer, because it's going to take a minute to drain that last little bit out. And then you refill it, put the little plug back in there, wipe everything down nice and clean, start your engine, check for leaks, and then put the cover back on, the splash cover back on the bottom, and there you're done. Simple, easy, do it yourself. All right, so I've got the bottom button back up, we got the plug on, all that good stuff. To show you guys that I'm not just being ridiculous, I know this truck has 8.5 quarts, but I pulled the manual out. We did change the filter, 8.5 quarts. If for whatever reason you did not change the filter, 7.9. So we're gonna put 8.5 in there because we did change it, but we're gonna do it kind of in stages, I guess. We're going to go ahead and put 5 quarts in there. We know that one of these is 5, so we're gonna put that in 5 in there. And then we need another 3.5 out of this one. But when we do that, we're gonna let it settle. We're gonna start the engine, let it run for about a minute or two, and then we're gonna pull the dipstick, wherever that is, it's way over there somewhere. Pull the dipstick, wipe it clean, put it back in there, and look at it and see where it's at. We're not gonna do that when the engine's running, obviously, but we're gonna let the engine run for a minute, let the filter fill up, let all the valves, pistons, and all that good stuff get oil in them, but let everything do like it's supposed to do. And then we'll turn the engine back off, pull the dipstick, wipe it clean, that way we get a fresh sensor on it, or fresh reading, put it back in there, push it all the way in, pull it back out, and see where we're at. While it's running to warm up and get everything moved, we're going to go underneath it, make sure that there's no leaks anywhere. You're going to check your filter and check your oil plug. If you see leaks, turn the engine off and fix it immediately. So that's pretty much wraps it up. All right, we're all done. So in case anybody couldn't do the math, we have 10 quarts of oil down there, and this needs 8.5. So those are 5 and 5. We put one full jug in there that gives 5 quarts, and you put 3.5 of the second jug in there for 8.5. So if you need to break it down even further, you should have 1.5 quarts left in one of them jugs. I'm just saying, some people can't do that for some reason. But now what we're going to do is, since that funnel's in there, we're going to take that old oil from down there and put it back into those quarts or jugs. That way we can dispose of it properly. You know, do your part. Do it like you're supposed to. I love people doing their own work, by all means, but do not pour that in the ground. And I say that because over there is my pump where my water comes from that I feed my chickens and my dogs in. We have to reset the maintenance light, and to do that, we just simply go into the settings menu, because right there it says maintenance required. We just did the maintenance. Now technically we do need to get the tires rotated, and I'm not going to do that here myself. But you go into the settings, you go into the vehicle, and you do maintenance reset. And yes, we want to reset the reminder. Boom, just like that. Now the light's gone. When I start it up, you no longer see it. And we can just keep on trucking. I'm going to go turn it off. I'm going to go check the dipstick. I assume it's correct. And I'm going to put the cover back on the bottom, put the old oil back into the jugs, and I'm going to go inside and eat some pizza. You guys have a good night.